So a Ukrainian drone strikes a Moscow high-rise, right? And then like 2 weeks later, a fifth grader in Ohio gets completely locked out of their math homework.
Yeah, which, I mean, on the surface, those sound like entirely unrelated events.
Exactly. It's so incredibly easy to look at a map of the world and just see, neat color-coded borders. We really like to think of global events as happening in total isolation.
Right, but they don't at all.
No, they don't. So today, we're doing a deep dive for you, exploring the sort of invisible wiring that connects Middle Eastern naval battles to, well, the sudden explosive evolution of autonomous AI.
And how those immense global shifts are basically tearing straight through everyday infrastructure. Because the physical world and the digital world, they aren't just overlapping anymore.
No, they're not.
They function as the exact same nervous system. You pluck a string in one hemisphere and a server rack goes offline in another.
It's wild. Okay, so we have a really fascinating stack of sources to parse through for you today. It's all anchored by the May 6th, 2026 edition of the Geopolitics and Innovation Morning Briefing.
Which is just a massive snapshot of a world in transition right now.
Totally. Okay, let's unpack this. We kind of have to start with the immediate global flashpoints because the very nature of these conflicts is just, it's being entirely rewritten by technology.
Oh, absolutely. The battlefields today are completely unrecognizable compared to, say, a decade ago.
Right. But real quick, just to be incredibly clear with you listening, we are looking at these events purely as they are reported in the briefing.
Right, just the facts on the ground.
Exactly. We aren't taking sides. We are not endorsing any political viewpoints from the left or the right. We are literally just reading the board as it's currently set.
And the board is incredibly tense right now.
It really is. Like over in Eastern Europe, we are seeing these bizarre passive-aggressive rival ceasefires between Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah, the timing there is very specific.
Right, so Vladimir Putin declared a unilateral truce for May 8th and 9th, which is right ahead of Russia's Victory Day parade. But then Volodymyr Zelensky immediately counters with his own ceasefire for May 5th and 6th.
And the really pointed part is that Zelensky noted Russia's upcoming parade is it's missing tanks and heavy equipment for the first time in 2 decades.
Which is just a crazy detail.
It is. But that missing equipment is a direct testament to modern asymmetric warfare. Ukraine's ability to force Russia into this diplomatic corner isn't based on, like, matching their troop numbers.
No, not at all.
Right, it relies on Western drone technology, satellite constellations like Starlink, and, AI-assisted targeting systems.
Which, I mean, that culminated in that Ukrainian drone striking a Moscow high-rise right before the parade.
Exactly.
It kind of forces you to realize that projecting power hundreds of miles into a capital city, well, it doesn't require a massive air force anymore. It just requires really good code and a network connection.
It's a completely different paradigm. And that same technological through line is playing out in the Middle East right now, but with vastly different economic consequences.
Yeah, let's pivot to that because President Trump just paused Project Freedom.
That's the U.S. naval escort operation in the Strait of Hormuz, right?
Exactly. He paused it, citing progress on an Iran deal. But what makes this so volatile is that the pause comes despite some really severe recent escalations.
Yeah, the tension there has been boiling over.
Right. I mean, we just saw the U.S. sink 6 or 7 Iranian boats during the operation, and Iran recently fired missiles at the United Arab Emirates. But I want to pull on a thread here with you.
Okay, lay on me.
On the surface, a naval conflict in the Strait of Hormuz feels, entirely divorced from the tech sector. But the briefing makes it clear this directly threatens cloud computing budgets in places like Asia and the U.S. How exactly does that work?
Well, it comes down to the raw physics of our digital world. We tend to think of the internet as this ethereal floating cloud.
Right, just magic Wi-Fi in the sky.
Exactly, but the cloud is actually millions of physical servers. They sit in these massive warehouses, and they run incredibly hot. And the Strait of Hormuz isn't just a stretch of water. Roughly 20% of the world's oil and a massive critical share of liquefied natural gas flows through that exact choke point.
Wow. So it's basically a massive energy bottleneck.
Yes, exactly. And think about what it actually takes to build and run the world's most advanced technology.
It takes power.
A ton of power. Hyperscalers, those massive cloud providers that essentially run the internet and semiconductor fabrication plants, they require an astronomical amount of baseload energy.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Right, so when that strait is contested, global energy costs become super volatile. And that uncertainty ripples outward instantly. Like a spike in LNG prices changes the operational budget of a data center in Tokyo or Virginia literally overnight.
So it sounds like we're essentially building the world's biggest, most expensive sports cars in Nevada while simultaneously, like, biting our nails over where the gas is going to come from in the Middle East.
Okay, that analogy actually captures the economic anxiety perfectly.
Thank you. I try.
And the really terrifying part for these tech companies is that they have to keep building those sports cars, regardless of the gas prices.
Because if they slow down.
If they slow down, they lose the race entirely.
Which totally explains the massive energy-hungry AI infrastructure boom happening right now. Like,
Hmm?
the capital flowing into AI is completely ignoring these broader macroeconomic headwinds.
The numbers are just staggering.
They are. Fleet Data Centers just closed a $4.6 billion deal for an immense AI complex in Story County, Nevada. They're specifically capitalizing on cheap land and a stable power grid.
Right.
And at the exact same time, you have the AI chip startup Cerebra's targeting a $26.6 billion IPO to challenge NVIDIA's dominance.
I mean, that scale of capital expenditure is historic.
Huh.
And to understand why $4.6 billion flows into a Nevada desert facility, despite, high interest rates and energy volatility, you have to look at the competitive landscape.
And that landscape is unbelievably tight right now. The new Stanford AI Index just revealed that the frontier AI gap between the US and China is, well, it's effectively gone.
It practically vanished overnight.
Right. Anthropic currently holds this razor-thin 2.7% performance lead over its closest Chinese competitor.
And mathematically speaking, a 2.7% lead is basically a statistical tie.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it means there is no technological moat protecting these companies.
And for those listening who might not be business nerds, a moat is like an inherent advantage that protects your market share, right?
Exactly. In traditional software, maybe you have a proprietary algorithm, but in the frontier AI space, there is no secret algorithm keeping you ahead.
So what is the advantage then?
The only advantage is compute power. It's literally just having more chips and more energy than the other guy.
Okay, so if you are a tech CEO, that 2.7% number essentially tells you that if you pause your data center construction for even a single month,
Your competitor trains a bigger model with more compute, and suddenly you are in second place.
and in the AI market, second place is practically irrelevant.
Exactly. The geopolitical and economic weight of that tiny, tiny margin is what is driving tens of billions of dollars straight into the hardware market.
Okay, so we are spending all these billions on server racks and specialized chips, but what exactly is running on all of this hardware that justifies that kind of price tag?
Well, looking at the data from the briefing, it's the sudden dawn of agentic AI.
Yes, agentic AI. The numbers on this in the Stanford AI Index are frankly wild to look at.
They really are.
They show that AI agent success in real-world tasks jumped from just 20% in 2025 to 77.3% in early 2026.
Which is a fundamental paradigm shift in how we interact with computers.
Mm.
But we should probably break down the mechanism of an agent, just so you can understand why that jump is so incredibly significant.
Please do, because it gets confusing.
Sure. So a traditional AI chatbot is reactive. You type a prompt, it generates some text, and then it basically stops and waits for your next command.
Right, like a really smart search engine.
Exactly. But an AI agent is proactive and autonomous. You give it a high-level goal, and it breaks that goal down into steps on its own. It opens a web browser, navigates sites, clicks buttons, and executes tasks without you holding its hand.
And we're seeing massive real-world applications of this right now. Like Cloudflare and Stripe just introduced a new protocol.
Yes, this was huge news.
It allows these AI agents to autonomously create accounts, buy domain names, and deploy entire web applications entirely on their own. Like, the human is completely removed from the loop.
It's an incredible engineering feat. They're utilizing these new computer use APIs that allow the AI model to literally see a screen and interact with it exactly like a human user would.
Okay, wait. I have to issue a really strong pushback on this because the legal implications seem like an absolute nightmare.
Oh, they are.
Right. I mean, if an AI agent autonomously buys a domain, uses a Stripe account to fund it, and then deploys an application that ends up, I don't know, breaking a law, committing fraud, or causing real damage,
Yeah.
who actually goes to jail?
That is the million-dollar question.
Where does the accountability sit when the software is the one making the operational decisions?
Well, that is the exact question policymakers are scrambling to answer right now. And honestly, they're completely failing to keep up
I can imagine.
because the law fundamentally assumes a human actor, or at the very least, a human who explicitly clicked the deploy button.
Right.
So when the actor is autonomous software operating with its own digital wallet, our current liability models just break down completely. I mean, the jump from a 20% success rate to 77% happened in just 12 months. Regulatory frameworks simply do not move that fast.
Yeah, they really don't. Though, it is worth pointing out a really interesting reality check from a recent Nature study that was in the briefing.
Oh, the one about scientific research.
Yeah, because while these AI agents are getting incredibly good at, deploying websites and buying domains, they still hit a massive wall when it comes to true innovation.
Yes. The Nature study found that when it comes to complex, open-ended scientific research and hypothesis generation, human scientists still meaningfully outperform AI agents.
Which is fascinating. But why is that? I mean, if the AI can literally read every medical textbook ever written in 10 seconds, why can't it just invent a new material or cure a disease?
It really comes down to the fundamental difference between executing a known pipeline and having adaptive reasoning.
Okay, unpack that.
Buying a domain name on Cloudflare is a strictly defined process. There are steps, there are rules, and predictable outcomes. AI is brilliant at optimizing those known pathways.
Because it's just following a map.
Exactly. But scientific discovery requires leaps of intuition. You have to recognize bizarre anomalies and explore uncharted territory where the rules aren't even defined yet. AI still completely lacks that spark of genuine open-ended discovery.
Okay, that makes sense. But giving an AI the autonomy to flawlessly execute known pathways, like deploying a website, well, it also means giving it the autonomy to deploy malware.
Exactly. The brilliant execution of known pathways is a double-edged sword.
Right, because if it can navigate a complex checkout process, it can definitely navigate a network vulnerability.
The democratization of capability inherently means the democratization of threat.
Which perfectly brings us to the severe cybersecurity warnings we are seeing in the briefing today. Like, the Hacker News recently dubbed 2026 the year of AI-assisted attacks.
And looking at the real-world examples, it is completely staggering.
It's terrifying. You have 3 teenagers with absolutely no coding background who just used ChatGPT to hit Rakuten mobile systems 220,000 times.
Yep.
And then you have low-skill actors hitting 600 FortiGate devices across 55 countries
Yes.
just using off-the-shelf commercial AI tools.
Think about the barrier to entry here. Historically, deploying a coordinated cyber attack across 55 countries required a highly skilled, incredibly well-funded syndicate. Or, a nation-state intelligence agency.
Right, like James Bond villain-level stuff.
It's exactly. But now, an AI is generating the command structures, it's writing the malware payloads on the fly, and it's easily bypassing legacy detection tools because those tools were built to catch older, predictable forms of code.
Wow. I was looking at the technical breakdown for this one critical flaw in a widely used web hosting software called cPanel. It's tracked as CVE 2026 41 40.
Ah, yes. That one is a mess.
It's compromised 1.5 million servers, and from what I understand, it's a CRLF injection, meaning attackers are basically sneaking hidden enter or return keystrokes into the server's login process.
That's right.
But that sounds almost too simple to work on 1.5 million machines, right?
I mean, it does sound simple, but it actually exploits a foundational mechanism of how the internet routes traffic. CRLF stands for Carriage Return Line Feed.
Okay.
When a server processes an HTTP request, like, say, you're logging into a website,
Yeah.
it looks for those invisible line feed characters to know where one command ends and the next begins.
So the attacker is essentially messing with the basic grammar of the request.
Precisely. By injecting those characters maliciously, the attacker manipulates the session cookies. They essentially trick the server into thinking an authenticated session has already been established.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that grants them root access, which is total unrestricted control without ever needing to guess a valid password. And because 1.5 million servers use this software, threat actors are just using AI to automate this exploit, deploying ransomware and wiping backups at incredible scale.
That is wild. And it isn't just teenagers or lone wolves using these automated exploits either. Security analysts noted a China Nexus Advanced Persistent Threat Group, an APT known as UAT 8302.
Right.
They are actively targeting government entities in South America and Europe right now.
And AKTs are the heavy hitters. These are state-sponsored groups that embed themselves quietly in networks for months, sometimes years. And they are utilizing these exact same accelerated AI tool sets to work faster, analyze vulnerabilities quicker, and just hit much harder than they ever could before.
Okay, so where do all these massive macro trends actually collide in daily life?
It's closer to home than you'd think.
It really is. We have energy volatility in the Middle East, autonomous AI agents executing code, and state-sponsored cyber attacks. And the answer to where they collide is right in your local school districts?
Yeah, the local school is basically the ultimate ground zero for these global shifts.
Let's follow the chain for you really quick.
No.
Geopolitical energy disruptions in places like the Strait of Hormuz hit school budgets directly.
Oh, absolutely.
If a district is on a variable rate energy contract, a spike in global LNG prices literally means they are paying more to fuel the school buses, heat the buildings, and keep the lights on for the massive cloud server architecture that modern education relies on.
And that budget squeeze happens at the exact moment their IT infrastructure is under historic assault.
Exactly. Schools are heavily targeted by these cyber threats. The education sector is now featured in 20% of all advanced persistent threat campaigns.
Which is a huge chunk.
It is. And a specific ransomware group called Interlock directs 27.3% of its attacks solely at schools. Plus, remember that cPanel web hosting flaw exposing 1.5 million servers we just talked about?
Yeah.
Countless school districts use cPanel for their internal portals and websites. They are sitting directly in the crosshairs.
It's just a perfect storm of vulnerability. I mean, a local school district simply does not have the resources to defend against AI automated exploits or state nexus threat actors.
No. We are effectively asking a local school administrator to act as a Fortune 500 cybersecurity executive and a geopolitical risk analyst, but operating on a literal bake sale budget.
Yeah, it's an impossible task.
It really is. And at the exact same time, they are trying to figure out how to handle the AI revolution inside the actual classroom.
Which is exactly why the U.S. Department of Education is scrambling right now. They are taking public feedback on AI guidance up until May 8, 2026, ahead of a massive implementation playbook coming in June. States are literally having to pass mandates requiring districts to have AI policies.
But here is where we actually find a vital, optimistic data point in all of this doom and gloom.
Finally, some good news.
Right. So a company called Securely analyzed 1.2 million student interactions with AI. And they found that 80% of student AI use stays perfectly within educational guardrails if the district has established clear policies.
And that 80% figure is incredibly important
Why is that?
because it completely disproves the prevailing narrative that this technology is inherently uncontrollable. The determining factor isn't the sophistication of the AI itself. The key variable is human governance.
Okay, so it's not about trying to ban the technology, which, let's be honest, is impossible anyway.
No, not at all. It is about setting expectations. When adults establish clear boundaries, build a framework, and communicate a solid policy, the vast majority of students actually follow it. The chaos we are seeing in classrooms mostly comes from a vacuum of policy, not just the mere existence of a chatbot.
I love that. That insight proves that we aren't just helpless passengers in this technological wave, which transitions nicely into an unambiguously positive structural shift that was kind of buried in the briefing data today.
Yes, we need this right now.
After looking at ransomware, geopolitical tension, and autonomous hacking, it's time to look at how the physical world is actually adapting.
And this data point is a monumental shift for American infrastructure.
It is. In March 2026, for the first time in American history, renewable energy, meaning wind, solar, hydro, and biomass combined, generated more electricity on the U.S. grid than natural gas.
And to put that in perspective, natural gas has been the undisputed king of the power grid for years. It was the reliable baseload that kept everything running when the sun went down.
But the mechanisms of the grid are fundamentally changing, aren't they?
Completely.
Solar alone accounted for 51% of new generating capacity this year. But the real linchpin here, from the data, is battery storage, which accounted for 28% of new capacity.
And that battery storage is exactly why this transition is finally happening.
Right.
You see, the traditional problem with solar and wind was intermittency. You generate a massive amount of power at noon, but you really need it at 8 p.m. when everyone gets home.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Historically, the grid relied on natural gas peaker plants to fire up and meet that evening demand. But now, we are building these mega batteries that store that excess midday solar and discharge it at night, which effectively removes the need for the natural gas backup.
It's amazing. This is the kind of generation-defining progress that often gets completely buried under our daily doom scrolling.
Oh, absolutely.
The physical infrastructure of the world is improving at a staggering rate, and this loops us perfectly back to where we started today.
It absolutely does. I mean, we started by discussing how energy dependencies in the Middle East dictate global technology budgets. When a drone strikes near Hormuz, data center costs in Nevada fluctuate.
But shifting the foundation of our power grid away from natural gas and toward decentralized domestic renewables, that fundamentally alters that geopolitical leverage. It rewrites the vulnerabilities of the entire system.
Exactly. You are taking power, both literal electrical power and geopolitical influence, and decentralizing it across thousands of wind farms and battery arrays.
So, to summarize the journey of our deep dive with you today, we started by looking at missiles flying in the Middle East and passive-aggressive ceasefires in Eastern Europe.
Right.
We traced how the physics of those conflicts threaten the global energy supply, which is the very supply that fuels the massive Nevada data centers building our AI future.
Yeah.
We examined how those AI models have evolved into autonomous agents capable of deploying code entirely on their own, which has supercharged global cyber attacks and forced local schools to completely rethink their security and classroom policies.
It's a massive chain reaction.
And through it all, we are watching a world rapidly redesigning its power structures, culminating in a historic shift toward a renewable energy grid.
It is a profoundly complex ecosystem, and it's adapting faster than our laws and our policies can keep up. And looking at all these interconnected threads today, it leaves me with one final kind of lingering question to consider.
Ooh, let's hear it.
Well, if AI agents can now execute real-world tasks with over 77% success, navigating these complex digital environments entirely on their own,
Right?
and our physical power grid is fundamentally changing its makeup to be this highly complex, decentralized network of renewables and batteries.
Okay, I see where you're going.
What happens when we inevitably hand over the minute-by-minute management of that complex green grid to those autonomous AI agents?
Hmm.
Will they be the ones optimizing our energy future? And if so, are we actually ready to trust them with the lights?
Man, now that is a thought to chew on. From the invisible wiring connecting a drone strike to a fifth grader's locked out math server, right down to handing the keys of our new green grid over to an autonomous software agent.
It's a brave new world.
It really is. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We love pulling these threads with you, exploring the mechanisms behind the headlines, and, just making sense of the noise. Stay curious, keep questioning the systems running the world around you, and we will catch you on the next one.